I died choking on my own blood in the back seat of a totaled SUV, my brother's hands slick with my lies as he whispered, "This is for the family, Poppy." The last thing I saw was his face, twisted in that fake grief he'd perfect for the eulogy, before the world went black. And then, impossibly, I gasped awake in my old queen bed in our cramped Jersey suburb house. The alarm clock blinking 6:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in June 2018, 3 years before the crash that ended me. My heart hammered like it remembered the skid, the shatter of glass, the betrayal that pinned it all on me, the embezzlement from Dad's firm, the affair that unraveled everything, the accident they staged to bury the truth forever. I bolted upright, sheets tangled around my legs, and stared at my reflection in the vanity mirror across the room. 25, wide-eyed, alive, with the faint scar from that stupid childhood bike wreck still pink on my cheek. It wasn't a dream. The calendar on my phone confirmed it. Wedding invitations for Jake's big day weren't even printed yet. He'd kill me all over again if he knew I was back. But this time, I wouldn't let him. This time, I'd drag every rotting secret into the light, starting with the one that made me the family scapegoat. The money Dad stole, the woman Jake fucked to cover it up, and the lie that turned my life into a ghost story before I even moved to California to escape them. The first few days blurred into a fever dream of paranoia and precision. I couldn't tell anyone, not Mom, with her pill-popping denial, not Dad, rotting away in that corner office like a king on a paper throne, and sure as hell not Jake, my golden boy brother who'd always been the one they bet on while I scraped by on scholarships and side hustles. I played it cool, sipping coffee at the kitchen table like nothing had changed, nodding along to Mom's endless gripes about the neighbors' tacky pool parties. But inside, I was mapping it all out. The bank records I'd glimpsed once, the late-night calls Jake made from his frat house that summer, the way Dad's eyes had darted when the auditors came sniffing around the firm in 2020. By week 2, I was packing boxes in secret, the kind that screamed fresh start to anyone paying attention, which they weren't. I'd always been the invisible one, the sensitive sister who faded into the background while Jake got the promotions, the girls, the pats on the back. Moving to LA had been my Hail Mary back then, a lease on a shoebox apartment in Echo Park, chasing screenwriting gigs that never panned out. This time, I'd make it stick, but not before planting the seeds of my unraveling. I started small, anonymous tips to the firm's junior accountants, vague enough to stir curiosity without fingering anyone yet. Check the offshore transfers from Q3 2017. I'd type into a burner email, heart racing as I hit send from a VPN on my laptop at the public library. Jake noticed the boxes first, of course, stumbled into the garage one humid afternoon, his gym bag slung over one shoulder, reeking of Axe body spray and entitlement. "What the hell, Pops? You bailing again? Mom's gonna flip." He leaned against the doorframe, that cocky grin splitting his face, the one that hid the shark underneath. I wanted to smash a lamp over his head right there, tell him I knew about the blonde from accounting, the one he banged on the firm's dime to keep her quiet about the missing funds. Instead, I shrugged, taping up a box labeled Books, Finally Mine. "Yeah, Jake. LA again. Got a job lined up, remote, but whatever. You wouldn't get it." He laughed, that booming fake laugh that echoed through our childhood Christmases and ruffled my hair like I was still 12. "Come on, don't be dramatic. Stick around for my wedding, at least. Sarah's asking about you." Sarah, his fiancée, the trust fund princess with the Instagram feed full of avocado toast and yoga poses, oblivious to the fact that her future husband was bankrolling their dream Hamptons honeymoon with Daddy's dirty money. I bit my tongue hard enough to taste copper, forcing a smile. Wouldn't miss it. Scout's honor. But I did miss it in a way. I loaded up the U-Haul that night, under cover of a thunderstorm that rattled the windows like God's own applause. Drove west through the night, windows down, radio blasting Springsteen to drown out the ghosts. Pennsylvania blurred into Ohio, then Indiana, the flatlands stretching like a blank page waiting for my rewrite. By dawn, I was across the Mississippi, the air turning salty sweet as I hit the desert. No calls, no texts. My phone stayed dark. They didn't notice. Not a single "Where are you?" from Mom's group chat. Not even a passive-aggressive Facebook post from Jake about family loyalty. I was gone, a vapor trail in their rear view, and it burned sweeter than any revenge I'd plotted yet. LA swallowed me whole that first month, the sprawl of palm trees and traffic a bomb on my fractured nerves. I crashed with a cousin in Silver Lake, distant enough not to blab back east, while I hunted apartments and gigs. Landed a freelance copywriting spot for some indie film outfit, churning out taglines that paid the rent on a studio in Koreatown. Nights, I'd prowl Venice Beach, watching the skaters and street performers, feeling the pulse of a city that didn't give a damn about your backstory. It was freedom, raw and jagged, but laced with the itch of unfinished business. I'd check my anonymous accounts obsessively. The tips were rippling, whispers in the firm's Slack channels about irregularities. Good. Let it fester. 3 years ticked by in that old life. Wedding came and went without me, or so I thought. Jake posted the highlights. Him in a tux that cost more than my yearly salary. Sarah glowing under fairy lights. Mom ugly crying into a hanky. No mention of the empty seat where I should have been. The betrayal simmered, but I built walls. Therapy sessions in WeHo. A rotation of casual hookups that kept emotions at arm's length. A tattoo on my ribcage that read, "Rewrite," in looping script. Then the crash, Jake's idea of a reunion road trip, him showing up unannounced at my door with a bottle of Patron and promises of making things right. Lies. He'd orchestrated it all, the faked reconciliation, the drive back east, the swerve into oncoming traffic pinned on my erratic behavior from the talk screen they planted. Insurance payout to the family firm, scandal buried, me in the ground. Now, back in 2018, with the wedding still a hazy future event, the universe, or whatever sadistic force rebooted me, decided to loop the tape. My phone buzzed one sticky August morning as I sipped oat milk latte on my fire escape. A voicemail from Mom, voice thick with that faux emergency tone she reserved for PDA crises. "Poppy, honey, where on earth are you? Jake's wedding is in 2 months, and Sarah's insisting on family photos. Call me back, okay? We miss you." Miss me? The word hit like a sucker punch. They'd buried me without a backward glance last time. Now, with me vanished to parts unknown, they were scrambling for optics. I didn't call back. Instead, I dug deeper. Hired a PI through a shady Craigslist ad. Some ex-cop named Vic who chain-smoked camels and didn't ask questions for $500 upfront. His reports trickled in. Jake's text to the blonde. Her name was Kendra. Turns out, coded lingo about the Jersey drop that matched the embezzlement timeline. Dad's shell company in the Caymans, funneled through Jake's consulting side hustle. The secret they'd chiseled into my grave. I'd been the fall guy, framed as the addict daughter who'd stolen to feed a habit I never had. Evidence. Forged emails, a planted vial of oxy in my purse during the crash. Cunning didn't cover it. Jake was a goddamn architect of ruin. The controversial calls started creeping in, the ones that kept me up chain-smoking on the balcony, staring at the Hollywood sign like it owed me answers. Do I expose it now? Torpedo the wedding and watch the family implode before vows are even spoken? Or play the long game? Let Jake tie the knot in blissful ignorance, then yank the rug at the reception with a PowerPoint of bank statements? Revenge isn't clean. It's a meat grinder, and I was grinding my own soul in the gears. I started therapy again, not the fluffy kind, but with a no-bullshit shrink in Silver Lake who chain-smoked metaphorical cigarettes and called me on my shit. "You're not God, Poppy," she'd say, tapping her pen. "Playing judge means you bleed too." But bleeding was the point. I RSVP'd yes to the wedding, cryptic as hell. Wouldn't miss it for the world. "See you in Jersey." Jake texted back immediately, all emojis and bro speak. "Knew you'd come through, sis. Road trip." I typed "flying in," deleted it, typed "surprise," hit send. The plan crystallized over IPAs at a dive bar in Echo Park. I'd fly commercial, rent a car, show up unannounced on rehearsal night. No warnings, no mercy. I'd corner Kendra first, track her down, offer immunity if she flipped. Then Dad, in his study with the Scotch decanter, lay out the ledger like a deck of marked cards. Mom, she'd crumble, but that's what enablers do. As fall leaves turned Jersey gold, I packed light. One carry-on, a USB drive fat with VIX files, an address that screamed funeral chic, black silk, off the shoulder, the kind that turns heads and drops jaws. The flight east was turbulence incarnate, my mind replaying the crash in loops. Tires screeching, Jake's feigned panic as sirens wailed. By touchdown at Newark, My hands shook so bad I fumbled the keys to the rental. Drove the familiar turnpike, billboards for casinos and crab shacks mocking me with their normalcy. Home loomed like a bad sequel. The split-level colonial with the sagging porch, Christmas lights still tangled from last year. They were in the kitchen when I walked in, unannounced as promised. Mom chopping carrots for some half-assed charcuterie, Jake and Sarah taste-testing cake samples on the island, Dad nursing a highball in his armchair, Fox News droning about tariffs. The room froze, forks mid-air, like I'd risen from the actual dead. Mom dropped her knife, clattering against the tile. "Poppy, oh my God, baby." She lunged for a hug, but I sidestepped, cool as the California breeze I'd left behind. "Surprise," I said, voice steady, eyes locked on Jake. His face, pale, then flushed, betrayed everything. The flicker of recognition, not joy, but calculation. Sarah recovered first, all Southern Belle charm, air-kissing my cheeks. "Y'all, she made it. Poppy, sugar, we thought you'd ghosted us for good." Dad grunted approval, raising his glass, but his gaze skittered away, guilty as sin. Jake stood slow, like he was buying time, and pulled me into a bear hug that smelled of cologne and deceit. "Sis, you sneaky bitch, where the hell you been?" Whispered it hot against my ear, that old sibling edge sharpened to a blade. I hugged back just tight enough to feel his ribs, then pulled away with a grin. Around. Missed the family vibe. Wedding's gonna be epic. Dinner that night was a minefield of small talk and subtext. Sarah prattled about the venue, a vineyard in Napa Valley. Wait, no, they'd switched to the Hamptons for authenticity, while Mom refilled wine glasses, eyes glassy with relief or rose, hard to tell. Dad dominated the politics rant, Trump this, economy that, until I steered it sharp. "Firm doing okay, Pops? Auditors still breathing down your neck." The table stilled. He coughed into his napkin, face reddening. "Water under the bridge, kiddo. Jake, here's the rising star now." Jake shot me a look, warning wrapped in warmth, and changed the subject to football. But I saw Kendra's ghost in his eyes, the transfers flickering like bad code. Bed that night in my old room, posters peeling, I plugged in the laptop and synced the files. Sleep came in fits, dreams of the crash morphing into wedding bells tolling like alarms. Rehearsal dinner loomed 2 days out, the vineyard crawling with florists and a string quartet tuning up. I played the prodigal daughter to perfection, helping Mom with seating charts, charming Sarah's Bible-thumping aunt from Alabama, even toasting Jake at the family brunch with a line about blood being thicker than the Pacific. But under it all, the wire was taut. Vic's last report had landed that morning. Kendra was cracking, holed up in a Philly walk-up, willing to talk for a plane ticket out. The night before the big show, I slipped out after midnight, driving the rental to a dingy motel off the interstate where Kendra waited, chain-smoking Virginia Slims under the neon sign. She was thinner than the photos, eyes hollowed by 3 years of silence. "He said you'd come crawling back," she spat as I slid into the booth, but her hands trembled on the coffee mug. I slid the envelope across, $10K, one way to Seattle. "Talk." It poured out like pus from a wound. Jake recruiting her for the loans, Dad's sign-off. The frame job they pitched when the heat came down. They needed a junkie daughter to blame. "Said you'd take the hit, 'cause you were always the weak link." Weak link. The words ignited something feral. I recorded it all, her voice steadying as the truth aired. Back at the house by dawn, I emailed the file to a reporter at the Journal, anonymous, with a timer, publish post-ceremony. Wedding day broke crisp and cruel, October sun gilding the vines like fool's gold. I zipped into the dress, makeup masking the shadows, and drove to the venue alone. Family limo be damned. Guests milled in linen suits and pastel frocks, champagne flutes clinking like fragile bones. Sarah was a vision in lace, but her smile wobbled when she saw me. "Poppy, you look fierce." Fierce. Yeah, that was the word. The ceremony dragged, vows exchanged under a chuppah draped in ivy, Jake's voice thick with sincerity as he promised forever. I sat in the back row, nails digging crescents into my palms, Mom dabbing tears beside me. When the kiss landed, soft, staged, I slipped out, circling to the bridal suite where Dad nursed a flask in the corner. "Poppy," he slurred, surprised but not enough. "Beautiful day, huh?" I locked the door, pulled the USB from my clutch. "Beautiful lie, you mean? Play it." The laptop whirred to life, Kendra's voice filling the room like smoke. Dates, amounts, the plot to pin it on me. His face crumpled, then hardened, the old patriarch mask cracking. You don't understand, kid. It was for the family. Jake's future. Fuck your family. I hissed, voice low and lethal. You killed it when you let him bury me alive in that lie. The crash? That was the encore. His eyes widened, did he know? Or had Jake kept that card close? No time to parse. Shouts echoed from the hall, rehearsal stragglers wondering where the father of the groom vanished to. I left him there, shattered, and rejoined the receiving line as husband and wife beamed for photos. Jake caught my eye across the tent, that grin faltering into something feral. He knew. Somehow he always did. The reception kicked off with toasts and twinkle lights, fairy tale bullshit masking the rot. I nursed a gin and tonic at the bar, watching Jake whirl Sarah across the dance floor, her laughter brittle as spun sugar. Mom cornered me by the dessert table, eyes puffy. What's wrong with your father? He looks like death. I smiled, sweet as strychnine. Ask him yourself. Or Jake. They're the experts on burying bodies. Her face drained, but before she could press, the quartet struck up at last, and Jake cut in, tugging me onto the floor for the sibling dance. Tradition be damned. His hand clamped my waist like a vice, breath hot on my neck. What did you do, Pops? Dad's a ghost, Mom's freaking. This your idea of a gift? I leaned in, close enough for our words to drown in the strings. Just family history. Bro, remember the Jersey drop? Kendra sends her regards. His step faltered, eyes flashing panic. Pure animal. You crazy bitch. You think you can. The music swelled, swallowing his threat, but I felt the shift. Guests murmuring, phones buzzing. The journal alert hit feeds like a grenade. Headlines screaming, prominent NJ, firm embezzlement scandal. Family ties unravel. Jake's grip bruised, but I twisted free, leaving him stranded mid-spin as Sarah tapped his shoulder, confusion etching her Botox-smooth brow. Chaos bloomed slow then fast. Dad stumbling from the suite, face ashen, barking into his phone. Mom collapsing into a chair, wineglass shattering. Guests clustering like vultures, whispers turning to gasps. Jake bolted for the exit, Sarah trailing in her heels, but I blocked the French doors, voice carrying over the din. Ladies and gentlemen, a toast to the happy couple and the house of cards they built on stolen bones. Security hovered, but the crowd parted, phones out, live streaming the implosion. Jake lunged, fist cocked, but Sarah grabbed his arm. What the hell, Jacob? And in that split-second hesitation, the truth cracked wide. She framed herself, he roared, desperate, pointing at me like I was the villain. Poppy's the thief. Always was. The lie hung, then shattered under the weight of evidence rippling through the room. Kendra's affidavit linking live. Auditors' reports forwarded in real time. Dad confessed in a blubbering rush, knees buckling. It was me, God help me. For the firm. Jake just helped. The word was a knife twist. Sarah's scream pierced the tent as she hurled her bouquet at Jake's chest, lace tearing like flesh. You lying sack of shit. Guests fled or filmed, the quartet packing instruments in stunned silence. Mom wailed, a keening that echoed my own graveside dirge. I stood amid the wreckage, chest heaving, the gin sour in my throat. Victory? It tasted like ash. Jake lunged again, feral now, but cops, tipped off by my anonymous 911, swarmed the perimeter, cuffs glinting. Poppy, he snarled as they wrestled him down. You ruined us. For what? For me. I whispered, close enough to see the fear in his eyes. The real one, not the mask. The me you killed twice. They hauled him away, Dad in tow, Mom catatonic in an ambulance. Sarah vanished into the vines, sobbing. I walked out alone, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows over the trampled grass. Back in the rental, engine humming, I punched LA into the GPS. 3 years ahead waited, the real ones, untainted. But as Jersey faded in the mirror, a twist nod. Vic's final email, unread till touchdown. A photo of Mom, young and scared, handing an envelope to a lawyer in '95. The real secret? I wasn't Dad's. Jake's blood, but not mine. The betrayal ran deeper, a half-sibling fracture they'd never owned. I laughed, bitter and free, accelerating into the dusk. Rewrite complete, but stories like mine? They never really end. The drive back west blurred into a haze of taillights and regret, the kind that settles in your gut like bad takeout. I'd torched it all. The wedding, the family, the fragile illusion of normalcy they'd clung to like a life raft in shitstorm waters. But as the rental ate up miles of I-80, radio crackling with static-wise Springsteen crooning about glory days, I couldn't shake the twist Vic dropped, that faded Polaroid of Mom, barely out of her teens, sealing some deal in a lawyer's office the year before I was born. Not Dad's daughter. Not fully Jake's sister. A cuckoo in the nest, maybe, or just another lie layered on the pile. I'd always felt it, that off-kilter vibe, like I was the glitch in their perfect family firmware. The way Dad's affections skewed toward Jake, the late-night whispers between Mom and her old friends that hushed when I patted down for water. But pinning it on biology? That was the universe's sick punchline, served after the main course of revenge. By the time I ditched the car at a Newark lot and boarded the red-eye to LAX, exhaustion had me dozing fitfully, dream-splicing crash wreckage with crib mobiles, Jake's baby laugh morphing into his arrest snarl. Landed at dawn, the city humming indifferent as ever, smog-choked skies over the arrival's curb, a cabbie blasting reggaeton as he ferried me to Koreatown. My studio waited untouched, succulents wilting on the sill from neglect, but the sight of my laptop glowing with news alerts hit like espresso. Embezzlement bombshell rocks NJ legal circle, screamed the Post. The Journal's piece went viral, retweets piling up like indictments. Jake's mugshot, disheveled, eyes wild, trended under family fiasco. Sarah's tear-streaked Insta-story captioning betrayed over a shattered heart emoji. Mom's silence was deafening. No voicemails, just a single text. How could you? How could I? The question looped as I showered off the travel grime, steam fogging the mirror where my reflection stared back. Older now, in soul if not skin, lines etched from the reboot. I called Vic from the towel, voice echoing off tiles. That photo, dig deeper. Who's the lawyer? And the envelope? He grunted, papers rustling. On it, kid. But word of advice. Some graves stay shut for a reason. Graves. The word chilled me, but I hung up, ordering Thai delivery and cracking a beer while doom-scrolling the fallout. The firm was hemorrhaging clients by noon. Dad's partners issued a terse statement distancing themselves. Jake's law school buddies unfriending him en masse. A talking head on CNN dissected the dynastic downfall, speculating on the prodigal sister's role. Me, anonymous avenger, painted as either whistleblower hero or vengeful harpy. Comment sections lit up with armchair psych. Classic sibling rivalry gone nuclear. One read, "She probably slept her way to the evidence," sneered another. Controversial? Hell, it was a bonfire, and I was the match. But the high faded fast, leaving a void that echoed louder than the cheers. I wandered Echo Park that afternoon, kicking through eucalyptus leaves, the lake's ducks paddling oblivious. Therapy loomed at 4 p.m. Dr. Lena, with her no-nonsense bob and penchant for tough love. I spilled it all. The reboot, the revenge blueprint, the wedding wreckage. She leaned back, steepling fingers. You got justice, Poppy. Or a version of it. But closure? That's not a plot device. It's work. Work. Yeah, the kind that meant facing the mirror without flinching. Vic's follow-up landed that night. A PDF thick as a novel. The lawyer was Mom's uncle, a probate shark who'd handled discreet adoptions back in the day. The envelope. Sealed adoption papers, my biodata ghost. Some Jersey cop who'd OD'd before I could walk. Mom's affair, hushed up to save face in their Catholic bubble. No malice in the cover-up, just shame buried under decades of denial. It humanized her, in a gut-wrenching way. The pill-popping, the enabling, all stems from a scared girl choosing family over truth. Forgiveness flickered, unbidden, controversial as hell, after the blood I'd spilled. I didn't call her. Not yet. Instead, I channeled the churn into work, pitched a spec script to my indie contacts, a revenge thriller laced with family noir, the protagonist a half-sister torching the manor. They bid, optioned it for peanuts, but it was a foot in the door, my rewrite manifesting on spec. Nights blurred into writing binges, takeout containers piling like evidence, the tattoo on my ribs itching as if freshly inked. Weeks turned to months, the scandal cooling to tabloid fodder. Jake copped a plea, 5 years federal, white-collar light with golf privileges. Dad shuttered the firm, retreating to a Boca condo with a bottle and bad golf. Sarah filed for annulment, her feed pivoting to empowerment seminars and green juices. Mom. Radio silence. Until Thanksgiving, when a FedEx arrived, a shoebox of keepsakes, my baby teeth in a vial, report cards yellowed with A's, a letter in her looping script. Poppy, I knew you'd find out someday. It wasn't shame that kept me quiet. It was fear you'd hate me more than I hated myself. The money, Jake. We all broke. But you? You were the light we dimmed. Forgive? I don't deserve it. But come home. Please. M. The words blurred through tears I hadn't earned. Controversial decision numero deux. I booked the flight east, not for reunion, but reckoning. Landed in Newark again, winter biting now, the turnpike slick with slush. The house looked smaller, porch light flickering like a dying star. Mom answered the door in a robe, hair unwashed, eyes hollowed twin to Kendra's. Baby, she breathed, and collapsed against me, sobs racking her frame. We talked till dawn, coffee going cold on the coffee table, about the cop dad I'd never know, his badge pinned to a teddy bear in the attic, the abortion she almost had, the guilt that chained her to Dad's lies. Jake was so young, she whispered, as if age excused the rot. We thought protecting him meant sacrificing me, twice over. I didn't absolve, just listened, the weight lifting inch by inch. Spring thawed Jersey, and with it, a fragile truce. I flew back and forth, script deadlines clashing with Mom's AA meetings. Vic retired to Florida, his final bill stamped, paid in full, stay out of graves. The reboot's gift? Not just survival, but agency, the power to choose messy over mythic. Jake wrote from prison, letters smudged with regret. Didn't see you coming, sis. Or half sis. Whatever. Sorry doesn't cut it, but it's all I got. I burned them, ashes scattering on the Pacific breeze during a solo surf lesson in Malibu. Controversial, maybe, but cathartic as hell. The film greenlit that summer, my name in the credits. Story by Poppy, last name redacted for drama. Premiere in Sundance 22. Critics calling it a taut gut punch of familial betrayal, elevated by raw authenticity. But the real twist? Mom showed at the after-party, sober 6 months, in a dress that hugged her like pride long lost. We clinked seltzers, her toast simple. To rewrites. Jake got paroled early, third strike mercy, and the family dinner that followed, awkward, loaded with silences, was no fairy tale. He looked smaller, eyes wary, but when he hugged me goodbye, it stuck, no claws. Me? I stayed west, roots digging deep into Cali soil, the scar on my cheek fading but the tattoo vivid. Reborn not once, but ongoing, a woman who died rose vengeful, and chose, against every script beat, to live gray. Controversial? Damn right. But in America's endless highway of second acts, it's the only ending that fits. 2 years post-wedding apocalypse, and LA had molded me into something sharper, less haunted. A screenwriter with a WGA card, a one-bedroom in Los Feliz overlooking the Griffith Observatory, and a girlfriend named Riley who bartended at a queer dive in WeHo and called bullshit on my brooding with a smirk and a shot of mezcal. Life wasn't linear. It zigzagged, plot twists in the form of auditions that bombed, scripts that sold but got rewritten by hacks, and the occasional panic attack at 3 a.m. where the crash replayed in HD. But the reboot held. No cosmic do-overs, just the grind of building from ash. Mom visited that June, her first trip west since the 80s honeymoon Dad botched with food poisoning in Vegas. She arrived wide-eyed at LAX, clutching a carry-on stuffed with Tupperware of her meatballs, can't trust California cows, and we drove the 405 in Riley's beat-up Jeep, windows down, wind whipping her perm into chaos. Riley took to her instantly, the two bonding over bad rom-coms and stronger coffee, while I hovered, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It didn't. Mom toured the set of my latest gig, a Netflix thriller about corporate espionage, and even cracked a joke about Dad's old schemes paling next to the plot. Progress, jagged but real. Jake's release loomed like a storm cloud that summer, his early out tied to good behavior and a snitch's whispers. Mom flew back east for the parole hearing, returned with a guarded optimism. He's changed, Poppy. Therapy, the works. Changed. The word rankled, conjuring his grip on the dance floor, the venom in his courthouse plea. I agreed to the family summit. Neutral ground. A diner off the pike in Edison. Formica tables scarred from decades of greasy confessions. He walked in 10 minutes late, leaner from prison yard runs, hair buzzed military short, eyes behind aviators that screamed, reformed but not soft. Hugs were obligatory, stiff as starched collars. We slid into the booth, orders of patty melts and cokes arriving like peace offerings. Small talk skated surface. His job at a temp agency, Sarah's divorce finalized with a venomous settlement, Dad's liver transplant list climbing. Then the meat. I owe you an apology, Jake said, voice low, fingers drumming the formica. For the money. The crash. All of it. I sipped my Coke, ice clinking like handcuffs. Apologies cheap, Jake. What's the why? He leaned in. Aviators off now, eyes raw. Fear. Dad's shadow, always chasing his approval. You were. Collateral. Easier to blame the outsider. Outsider. The half-blood truth hung unspoken. But he knew. Mom's letters from the joint had spilled it all. Riley's hand found mine under the table later, squeezing, her way of saying, don't drown. He didn't stay long, the diner emptying around us like a bad fade-out. But as he stood, he slid a thumb drive across, my notes from inside. On Dad's old partners. Thought you might use it for that script of yours. Use it. The gesture twisted, olive branch, or ploy. I pocketed it, nodded cool. We'll see. Back in L.A., the drive decrypted to a gold mine. Depositions, wire transfers, Dad's cronies buried deeper than bodies. My thriller got a second season bump, the showrunner salivating over ripped from headlines authenticity. Riley and I celebrated with rooftop tacos, city lights sprawling like a neural net, her head on my shoulder as we pondered the what-ifs. You think redemption's real? She murmured, tequila loose. I kissed her temple. For some. Not all. Fall brought the premiere of my feature, Sundance to streaming. Critics mixed but box office buzz from the scandal tie-in. Mom flew out again, front row with Riley, her applause thunderous as the credits rolled. Based on a true story. Kinda. The Q&A was a minefield, moderator probing the personal demons, me dodging with quips about Jersey winters and bad blood. Afterward, a wrap party at the Roosevelt, schmoozers in slim suits swirling like sharks. That's when Jake texted, watched it. Brutal. Beers when I'm out west. Controversial call 3. I said yes. He rolled into town a month later, paroled clean, crashing on a buddy's couch in Venice. We met at a brew pub off Abbot Kinney. Craft IPAs and fish tacos, surfers padding past on board shorts. He looked almost human, laughing at my jabs about prison chow, but the undercurrent hummed. Script's killer. Pops. That crash scene? Too real. I met his gaze over foam. Had to be. You wrote the first draft. We talked real then. Him owning the seduction of Kendra, the high of Dad's nod, me unpacking the reboot, the void of that black screen death. Felt like drowning in tar. I said, voice steady. But coming back? It's not power. It's weight. He nodded, slow. And for the first time, I saw the boy he'd been, scared kid in big shoes, not the monster I'd mythologized. Forgiveness? Nah. But understanding? That was the gray I could live with. Dad died that winter, cirrhosis finally cashing the check. Funeral in Boca was sparse, Mom stoic in black, Jake and I flanking her like mismatched bookends, distant cousins murmuring platitudes. At the graveside, wind whipping palms, Jake squeezed my elbow. He loved you in his way. Bullshit, maybe, but I let it lie. Mom and I scattered ashes on the Gulf, her whisper carrying. We all rewrite, baby. Keep writing. Riley proposed that spring, on the Echo Park pier, with a ring popped from a gumball machine and a vow scrawled on a napkin. To plot twists and you. Wedding was small, courthouse affair with tacos and a playlist of Etta James. Mom walked me down the aisle, a sandy path to the bench. Jake best man in board shorts, toasting with non-alcoholic beer. To sisters, half, whole, whatever. Don't ghost us again. Years stacked like scripts. Riley and I adopted a rescue mutt named Crash. Irony intentional. Mom relocated to a condo in Palm Springs, trading pills for Pilates. Jake started a non-profit, white-collar rehab for ex-cons, channeling his wreckage into something redemptive. We weren't close, not Hallmark clothes, but holidays brought truces, Thanksgivings laced with laughter over the great unraveling. The reboot's shadow lingered, though. Nights when I'd wake gasping, tires screeching phantom, or scroll old news clips of the wedding gone viral. Controversial to the end. Was it revenge or reckoning? Justice or just jettisoning the dead weight? Dr. Lena called it integration. Riley, just living. Me? I called it the American dream. Rebooted, flawed, fierce, forever unfinished. One dawn, 5 years post-return, I stood on the Los Feliz balcony, manuscript in hand for the sequel no one asked for. Not thriller, but memoir. Half-Blood Highway. The city stirred below, endless reinvention. Mom texted from the desert. Proud of you, kid. Always was. Jake followed. Read the draft? Brutal truth. Riley stirred inside, coffee brewing. I hit send on the query, heart steady. Died once, rose twice. Now, this was the life I claimed, word by jagged word. No twists left, just the road ahead, wide open.